Sisters. I'm Jessica.
I'm Elizabeth.
And we have some very special guests with us here today.
Yes.
We are very fortunate to have them. Sunday Sanctuaries is for them, and they really carved out some time to have a conversation with us and about what they do. And I thought this topic was very important. But before we jump into that, ladies, you can go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Derrica Wilson, co-founder of the Black and Missing Foundation, and happy to be here.
And hello, everyone. I am Natalie Wilson, co-founder of the Black and Missing Foundation. So thank you for having us.
Absolutely. It was interesting when my husband and Derrica's husband, they met and they worked together. When I heard the impact that you ladies are having I just never even heard of anything like this. I thought it was just like, oh my God, I need to know more. I'm very curious. I also feel that it's very important to talk about this.
Such important work. Yeah.
Yeah, such important work. Can you tell us a little bit on how you guys got everything started?
Okay, so I can take that question and kick it off. We started this organization, the Black and Missing Foundation, because of a need and to solve a problem, really. There was a young lady by the name of Derrica Houston who went missing from Derrica's hometown, Spartanburg, South Carolina. And we read how her family, particularly her aunt, who was in media relations like I am, really struggled to get national media coverage around her beautiful niece's disappearance. And, when Derrica and I heard that, we were so disheartened by it.
Yeah.
And because we saw Tamika in ourselves, I mean, she's a beautiful, brown-skinned girl, we didn't understand why she didn't get national media coverage. We did some research. We found that 30% of all persons missing were of color, and they're not getting that media coverage. And Tamika's aunt, Rebecca, reached out to the same networks and programs and reporters who covered Natalie Holloway and Lori Hacking around the clock. They went missing around the time that Tamika did. And again, she was met with silence, right? And it was so disheartening. But if you fast forward to today, what keeps us going is using our profession. I'm in media relations, getting that visibility. Visibility equals justice.
Yes.
And awareness for these cases. Derrica working with law enforcement hand in hand, getting them to add resources to the case. And if you fast forward to today, 40% of all persons missing are of color. And that's over 200,000 people reported missing every year. And the main thing that I'm saying here is reported missing. We know that there's a population that isn't reporting their loved ones missing for whatever reason. So again, we have created this organization to bring awareness to those that are forgotten or they don't have a voice, they're not visible. And there are too many of us that are disappearing.
I agree with you. I have to say, when I was reading into everything and diving deep into more of what you ladies do, it just brought me back to when you would go to ShopRite and you would see like all the missing people, oh, this person's missing, this person's missing. But it also brought me back to when I was about like 8 years old and that song Runaway Train came on MTV and they started to show all these missing people, but they did not look like me. I mean, maybe there was one or two, but they didn't look like me. So I was very empathetic, like, okay, these are people that are missing, but what about people that look like me? What there's no representation. And that doesn't say like that's not in a good way, but why isn't that coverage? Why aren't they covering it as much as they should?
Yeah, there's definitely a disparity,
Sure.
which makes your work so important because there's so many high profile cases that are not surrounding,
Right.
Black and brown, women or children or things like that. Derrica, as a formerly sworn officer and certified human trafficking investigator, how did your law enforcement experience shape BAMFI's approach?
Law enforcement, they are the gatekeepers. They are the first point of contact when a family is experiencing this unfortunate situation. And getting law enforcement to our cases, to take our cases seriously, because one of the things that we did with the organization is that law enforcement, they like to classify our children as runaways. We
Yeah.
know that runaways do not get the Amber Alert. It doesn't send a sense of urgency for the community to look for them. Also just trying to get their processes changed. For example, the reporting structure. So many people don't realize that in many cities and states that you can report your loved one missing immediately. There is really no holistic approach because jurisdictions are able to perform in the manner in which they choose to. And what we are trying to do is take away that discretion. So working with the families, helping them bridge the gap because we know that there is no manual to anyone having to deal with this unimaginable chain of events. But working with them in law enforcement and understanding how to walk the walk and talk the talk so these families can get their cases filed with law enforcement so the media can help amplify those cases.
I have heard that people say when you report somebody missing, you have to wait 24
24
hours. That's
hours.
completely false, correct?
I really think that all of your listeners out there is so important to understand what the requirements are in your respective jurisdiction. For example, we live in Maryland. We know that in DC as well as Virginia, there's no waiting period. Families can report immediately. But there are other jurisdictions around the country that require families to report in 24 hours. We know that the first 24 to 48 hours are the most critical moments, which is one of the things that we're challenging to create holistic policy and procedures across the country. Your neighboring jurisdiction shouldn't be telling you to wait 24 hours when the other jurisdictions need to report immediately. They all need to have the same approach.
Agreed.
Yeah. And grief is, after a disappearance, it's often ambiguous and it's always ongoing. How do families typically describe that experience and what is their need like in the most? Like in the early days?
Yeah, what type of support should they be getting in those first few days?
Well, it's beyond grief for these families. They're heartbroken, right? They don't know where their loved ones may be. And that's something that we hear from families all the time. The unknown is the most difficult part of this journey or this trauma for them. So, we help them holistically from A through Z, holding their hands, getting them, to getting them help, filing the missing persons report with law enforcement, making sure we have all of the information, including photos, uploaded to our database. You'll be surprised how many people don't have recent photos of their loved one, right? We're helping them, get media coverage. We're coaching them as to how to speak with the media. Many families, they don't know, what to do with a bright camera in front of them. They freeze. Some of them are angry. Some of them are saying things that, calling out people's names, but putting us in jeopardy and, sometimes the interview's cut short. Then they may need financial support to get through this journey because they're the breadwinner of the family, but they still have to find their child, so they can't work, right? And they just need a holistic approach to dealing with this, and no two cases the same. So these missing individuals and their families, we embrace them and we want to help them, navigate through this process. And our service, we don't charge anything at all. It's free, and we have a dynamic team that's there to, offer resources for families.
I wanted to add something to what Natalie also stated with the families, and especially in the very beginning. When law enforcement don't seem to be taking the cases seriously, we see families take matters into their own hand. For example, they may create flyers, and on those flyers, they put their personal contact information. And what we have seen over the course of the years when families do this, not only are they looking for their missing loved ones, but they're also opening themselves up to be the victims of scam and rape. And
Right.
so one of the things that we do with our organization, we create those flyers for them so they are no longer victimized.
Right. Wow. I know I've been actually watching on your Instagram because we follow you guys through the Grieving Sisters, and then I follow you, Derrica, through my Planted Seed page. And what I've been seeing a lot of New York. I've seen a lot of New York coming up on you guys, like Syracuse, Westchester. I've so is it that you are not only in the DMV area, but you guys are nationwide?
Yes,
Yes,
that is correct.
yes. We are a national organization. We're housed here in the District of Columbia, Maryland area. And our, focus on men, women, and children of color. And the organization is the Black and Missing Foundation, but it's any person of color, Hispanic, Asian, anyone that's has a brown or black hue on it,
Mm,
and we help them on a national level. So anywhere in the country. You mentioned New York.
right.
I think you're referring to Larry Stackhouse, who you posted over the weekend. But
Yes.
we're seeing a trend where people are going missing from places like Chicago, Baltimore, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Detroit, many of the urban areas. That's where we're seeing a large population of our people going missing, especially young women and girls because of sex trafficking.
I was
Hmm.
just going to ask about the human trafficking,
Yeah.
and maybe that's more towards Derica. That do you feel like it's more of the human trafficking and then the social media aspect, like it's just easier for predators to kind of get to our girls, or yeah, girls really.
Oh, absolutely. Girls and boys, actually.
Mhm.
What we look at social media as a blessing for our organization because we can't always wait on the 5 and 10 o'clock news cycle, but we also see it as a curse where these predators are utilizing this tool to lure the unexpected into some sort of sex trafficking or whatever ill intentions they may have. But people are going missing for a variety of reasons. I mean, again, human trafficking, domestic violence, mental health, parental abductions. I mean, so the list continues to grow, for the reason people are going missing, but human trafficking is a factor that we see. And, we always try to tell parents, we want the parents to don't be their children's friend, be the parent. See what they're
That's
doing
right.
online. There's so many children. I just saw a post the other day, and thank goodness we didn't even have a chance to post it because the little boy was found safely, which is great. But he
Okay.
was actually lured online, utilizing the game Roblox. And
The
this was just a
Roblox.
couple of days ago. And so Roblox is a free game. And think about your children logging onto this computer. If they can log onto the computer and go into this game and have access to the chat feature, what makes you think that these adults are not masking themselves or, trying to lure those children? So we really have to educate our children. And it's not just the social media, but any app that has a chat feature. These
Right.
predators are always looking for opportunities.
Yeah.
Are there any stories or moments of a community response that gave you hope, like examples of when visibility and advocacy made a real difference?
Have many of them. One that comes to mind, there were two young women or young girls that were missing from the District of Columbia, and their families called the news stations, and they didn't get any coverage. But I'm a member of the Washington Association of Black Journalists, and I was able to pick up the phone and called one of the editors, said, "Hey, we have two girls that are missing." And immediately she, allowed the family to some airtime. And because of that, other stations started covering this story. And a vigilant citizen saw these two girls at the bus stop, and some horrible things happened to them. But she was able to call and get them home. And again, that's the power of the media stepping in and bringing about this awareness and this visibility. And we have many cases like that where individuals have seen the missing person from our flyer on social media. They made that call, and we were able to get those missing individuals to safety. And another one that sticks out really quickly is we were guests on The View, and that's a national platform. And within 14 minutes of the show airing, we received a tip that led us directly to that missing child, and we were able to contact law enforcement. So again, that's the power of the media, because it brings our community into action, and they're
Right.
more visible and vigilant. But it also puts pressure on law enforcement to add resources to the case, because no police department wants to be embarrassed.
Right.
Right.
And
Right.
I just want to add to what Natalie said, because Natalie brings up a great point in both stories that, like she shared. We know that there is a lack of trust when it comes to the Black and Brown community and law enforcement. And in those cases that she just mentioned, those calls are coming into our organization because we look like the community that we are serving. And we in turn follow up with law enforcement so they can act on it as well.
Right.
I was going to say that there's for good reason, there's a lot of distrust,
Right.
and I feel like a lot of people before they contact the police are going to contact foundations that they feel like they can trust, people who look like them, people who they feel like has their back.
And I feel like the media does have a bad rap. And Natalie, thank you for being such a positive. Because me, even sometimes, right? You're watching the 10 o'clock news. It's the same cycle over and over and over. And it's like, okay, well, isn't there anything else happening? Like, can you just talk about a really positive case? Can you? But it's always very negative, and it's always and I know that there is media bias, and we touched on that in
Yeah.
like a social media like
Episode, yeah.
episode. And no, actually, it was we have an episode of grieving and being a person of color, and how we are able to grieve and showcase our grieving, but not be, I guess, shamed for it
Right.
of being of a person of color. So I guess I have to say, Natalie, you're doing a great job kind of showcasing the other side of the media, right? Because, it's not pretty. And then Derrica, even for you, police, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. We don't trust them. We just don't trust them. You don't know what's going to happen to you, even with that, there was the woman, I think back in 2016 that, that she got pulled over for whatever, a broken taillight.
Sandra
And
Bland.
yeah,
Sandra Bland.
and I saw myself in her so hard. And I said, yeah, I don't know. This is tough. This is some tough stuff. So you ladies are doing some powerful work. And for me as being an LPC, now I got to turn into the therapist real quick. How do you ladies do self-care?
That
Because
was my next
it's
question.
like, how do you I mean, I know, like we kind of talked about it off air, like
Yeah.
Sanctuary Sundays, y'all don't talk about this. You guys don't even, but what do you ladies do for you to disconnect, right? Because you can have good news and bad news. How do you disconnect and not get so involved that like you're sleeping and you're dreaming
Well,
about it at
yeah,
night?
we can imagine that it's emotionally devastating.
Sure.
I think one of the things that I know now is that I chime in. We have been so good over the past few years of setting boundaries and showing ourselves grace. We can't help anyone on an empty cup, right? And it's okay to step away, because to be completely honest with you, this is very hard work, and what we do is so much bigger than us. We'll tell anyone that we're on assignment, but being able
Amen.
to disconnect, and we owe that to ourselves, we owe that to our families, because now, we've been doing this for nearly 18 years, and our families have sacrificed. They've been there with us through everything, and to be able to, again, disconnect, show ourselves grace. And I'll say again, I mean, Sundays is one of those things for me. And today, my husband and I, we actually went and had a couples massage. The past has been very tough, and just to be able to disconnect is so important. for all of us.
For me, sometimes I have to get very still and just remove myself from everyone and the noise so that I can, see the road ahead. And I'll be honest, it's very difficult. I mean, when we have people depending on us,
Mhm.
it,
That
it's
pressure.
hard. This is a very sensitive, yeah, and time is of the essence. So sometimes it's hard to have those boundaries in place. I try to go to bed early and turn my phone off, but then there are times that I'm, researching or reaching out to my media partners, just saying, "Hey, can you cover?" And then I wake up very early in the morning, right? And I try not to get on my computer or phone, but it's hard because I'm looking for answers. Hey, can we get someone to, an interview? I'm very relentless, and
I
I
could
make
tell.
sure
Wait a
that
minute, Natalie, I could
we
tell
show
right from
up.
here.
No,
Yes.
but families are depending on us, and many times they say we are you. I'm sorry, you are our last resort,
Oh,
and that's a heavy burden to carry.
mm,
So, and what we do is a matter of life, death. So I don't want to take the blame of someone dying on our watch because they didn't get media coverage, because someone knew or knows where they are. So again, it's very, very hard to set boundaries. Like I'm looking right now at my grandkids, they're getting ready to go home and they're looking at me like, okay, come on, but this is something that we have to do to get the information out to the audience. So we pivot as we can.
wow. I mean, again, right? This is some really powerful stuff. And I'm glad that you ladies are setting those boundaries because it can be very difficult, especially like when you want answers and you want the good news. And I think you kind of nailed it when you said like it's literally life or death. Did you ever, either of you ever experience the grief with a family when there was a negative outcome?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, we eat, sleep, and breathe this. Not all cases have an outcome that we all expected. And one of the things that we always share and want the general public to know is that there's no such thing as closure. Um, it's answers. So we want families to remain hopeful. And if we don't get the outcome that we all expected, then we say that we were able to provide some sort of answers for the families that we're serving. As Natalie mentioned earlier, we help with financial support. We help with burial extent as well, and, we have our caseload. It has continued to increase. And again, as you can imagine, that not all kids have this. So it really is tough. And we grieve with these families because, to be quite frank with you, these families become our family.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're bonded through this experience. It's really devastating to hear that these cases are only growing.
Yeah. It's
Um,
scary.
yeah,
It's
is there
scary.
is there any sort? I mean, some of these things, unfortunately, there are people there who take advantage. So sometimes we can't prevent these things from happening. But is there any advice that you would give, maybe for us as parents
Yeah.
of brown and Latino children to help them stay vigilant and be as safe as possible? Is there any? We're definitely going to ask at the end of the episode on where we can find you as resources, but I guess the goal would be to not have to have this resource.
Right.
What do you think would be some of the best tips that you can give children or people of color overall to remain safe?
I can start it off. Checking in, right? Sometimes we just don't check in. We have a lot going on. Life is lifing, and
Mhm.
it's getting more and more difficult. And sometimes we just step away. So check in. In this social media era, please stop posting everything online. You are in Miami at the LaFontaine Blue. Wait until you get home
Mm-hmm.
and post. You never know who's watching. You're at Ruth's Chris on G Street or Main Street having dinner. Post that after. right? After you leave and you get home. And for parents, have those tough conversations, as Derrica said, with your child or your children about internet or social media safety. Because once they have a device, any device that has a chat feature, your child can be, connecting with someone. And the process isn't overnight. We've had cases where it took 2 years for the child to be groomed and become comfortable and then share that information with the predator. So we also share with parents to create a fictitious social media account and see if you can befriend your child. And you'll see they'll become comfortable and share information, where they go to school, where they hang out. So you just have to be mindful. And lastly, from me is, do you know who the sex offenders are in your community? Check the sex offenders registry, where your faith-based organization, your child's school, your home. And we're not saying that they shouldn't live there, but you should at least know who these individuals are.
And I echo everything that Natalie has stated. The only thing I want to again just food for thought for all the listeners out there, just to really think about how can a stranger enter your home without coming through any of your doors or windows? And it's through those devices. You have to be careful what you are doing online, what your children are doing online, because you're opening yourself up to be a victim in some form or fashion when you don't know what you're dealing with on the other side of that screen.
Right. Yeah, and I worked as a school counselor for 12 years. And, we've had, different departments come in and say, hey, listen, you got to pull this kid down. This kid, she was talking to somebody and it was actually like an offender, or he was talking to somebody and it was XYZ. It's very, but now isn't there a lawsuit against Roblox that they are catering to the predators? Like there's a lawsuit against Roblox for it.
For not having the right safety
Yes.
things in
Yeah.
place. Yeah, I think I did hear something like that.
I can't speak on that, but what I will say is that there's many other roadblocks out there. I mean, think about the
Right.
PSP, think about all the gaming systems that have the chat features, think about the apps that downloaded on the phone, WhatsApp, think about Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of the apps that have a chat feature, you know, that is a way that a predator can get to it.
Technology is it's so rapidly that our children know technology better than we do.
Say it again.
My grandkids are very young and they show me features on my phone. I'm like, well, how did you know that? And how did you know to do that? They're so smart. But again, so are the predators. So with many of these devices, I don't know how we can, wholeheartedly protect our children. And we're starting to see so many parents that are taking their child's phone away or devices. And I don't think that helps because the child goes to school and uses their friend or another student's device or phone, and they're talking to these predators. So again, education. We've had a number of cases where that happened. The child went to school, the mother knew that, something was wrong, took the child's phone away. The child went to school, used someone else's phone, called someone, and they picked them up from school and they were trapping.
That's more common than people realize, about these traffickers picking up the kids from school or around the corner. We see it on a regular basis.
And I'll tell you, I actually have, I was in the third grade, I believe, and I was in school and somebody came I was in art class and I'll never forget it. And they came in to the classroom and they're like, okay, you're okay. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm going to go do my artwork. Apparently a man came in and they spelt my last name wrong, but they were like, no, we came in because her mom wanted us to come and pick her up. And because they spelt my last name wrong, they couldn't take me. This is in Jersey City at that time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
So, and again, right, the school has a duty to do that. You know, we used to have parents curse us out like, well, I'm the parent. Well, you're not even on the birth certificate. So if you're the father and you're not on the birth certificate, you're not taking this kid out of the
You're
building.
not on the
You're
list.
not on the list. Sorry, sucks to be you. You're not taking this kid anywhere. They're right now they're our property until 3 o'clock. Like that's it. And then you do what you do if you try to. And we always had like police officers in the front. You know, we you know, I could say for our district because I worked at the school where we graduated. We went to school together, and but it is they try anything and anything to try to get in. So that's why I think you know, we're very grateful that you're able to provide our listeners with such. I mean, the information and the advice is so powerful,
Yeah.
and it's needed, right? Because sometimes we really do fall for the BS, you know, like
And not only that, but something that I've learned, I'm a helicopter parent. I don't care who judges me. I really don't care. I have I have a 14 and a 15-year-old, and I worry about them equally, whether they're a boy or a girl. And something that I've learned, I've definitely been on the side of TikTok of being very vigilant about trafficking and things like that. And something that I've learned that I didn't even think of is any device in your home that has a camera attached to it. The predators are tapping into the Wi-Fi and they're able to see. I was watching this TikTok video the other day. There is sort of like this robot, and it's for couples that are long distance or friends that are long distance or grandparents and parents. And there's like a little robot, and you're able to communicate with the robot. It's sort of like a FaceTime, but if the other person doesn't really know how to use the FaceTime, they can connect with this device.
right.
And somebody had commented, be very, very careful with any type of device that has sound or video, because predators can literally get on the Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
If they can get on your Wi-Fi, they can get access to every device in your house that has cameras or speakers and use that to gain intel and know when you're home, when you're not home, when the schedule is, who's in the home. These little devices move around the house. So, like, the woman was cooking in the kitchen and talking to her friend, and as she walked, the person on the other side can sort of follow. So it's dangerous because they can get the entire layout of your home.
Oh,
Oof. Yeah, you had the same thing with baby monitors not too
yes,
long
I was
ago.
just about to say that. Yes.
You know, people were smoking.
And the
That was
ring camera as well.
The Ring camera, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We saw that too. Oh my goodness, this is just such an intense. I think this is probably one of her most serious,
No, but this is one of the most important because this is preventative as well.
right,
You know, like
to prevent that
we're
grief,
trying to prevent more grief in our communities, you know?
right, and also give that hope. And I mean, we thank you so much. And how can families reach out to you? You know, do they follow you on Instagram? How do they contact you? Obviously, we know how to contact
Well,
you.
what's the best way for our followers to support you?
Yeah.
So please go to our website, and it's the Black and Missing Foundation, and you can simply type in BAMFI.org, and all of our information is there. Social media, you can subscribe to our newsletter, requests to volunteer, and we have so many initiatives coming out. The early part of next year, we have our 5K coming up. It's our 10th anniversary. And we need boots on the ground to help us, you know, spread the word and find those missing from our community. So again, go to BAMFI.org.
The 5K will be located in your town?
Yes, Maryland.
Yes,
Okay.
in Maryland.
Mhm.
Okay.
Down in Be More. We love Be. I love me some Be More. I do love me some Be More. I do got to get down there. I haven't had some. Haven't had some crab legs in a good, like some good crab legs, you know, in some time. And then I'll come and visit you ladies, you know.
We thank you so
Sounds
much again
good.
for making time for us and just putting the work in this foundation that is so important to all of us. We really appreciate your time, and we'll definitely be using our platform to share and educate as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies. We really appreciate you, and also taking the time out on your Sanctuary Sundays just to talk with us.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you and happy holidays.
Yes.
Yes.
Happy holidays. Yes. And for our listeners, please check in, once we have this episode uploaded. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram. We're all over. But yeah, take advantage of this episode. I mean, there was some really great gems that were dropped.
Yeah, we're
and,
going to be linking everything in our post as well. So, hopefully this community grows.
and it was such a pleasure to meet you both finally.
thank
And I
you.
hope to meet you guys in person.
Yeah.
We're going to pray on that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.